I'm at 6551 McEwen Road in Dayton, Ohio, doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. We're looking for mainly any structural issues, anything that would be of concern to the buyer. The access here is a stack in the center of the basement, center rear of the basement. It's a little Y, PVC Y that comes into a cast iron stack, and there's also another clean out in the basement floor, or basement floor, garage floor. Right to it's if you're walking out of the basements, it's on the left. If you're coming into if you're walking out of the garage, it's to the left. If you're coming into the garage through the garage door, it's just to the right as you come through the door. And it is on septic. It's seemingly pretty sure there's a tank that was recently uncovered to the right of the driveway if you're facing the house. So I'm hoping we can just get right on through here and make these turns at this Y, because it is kind of a weird turn, but alright, okay, so we were able to make the turn. And so this is cast iron, at least on the inside. And cast iron is not a horrible material, but it does rust. And as you can see, the interior of the lines are pretty rough, so it tends to be a higher chance for like soft clogs, like excessive toilet paper, stuff like that, just due to the fact that it's so the interior of the pipe is just so rough from all the rust that it's just a lot more likely for it to catch stuff as it goes by. As long as you don't flush anything that is that you're not supposed to, they function fine. But just got to watch wet wipes more than anything, because they don't break down. So far, it looks like the line is holding shape pretty well. I don't see any major damage or anything. So a little bit of channeling, but that's normal for cast iron to this age. You can have them descaled. That kind of brings them back to a normal kind of reshapes the interior to what it used to be, but then there's also different opinions on that, on to whether or not you should take the chance of damaging the pipe, because there's no real way of knowing how thin or thick the pipe walls are. But it's pretty normal to see like the mineral deposits on the bottom and the material buildup like that. This is a pretty normal condition for cast iron at this age. It doesn't look great, and it does have, like I mentioned, a lot more chance for wet wipes and toilet paper and stuff if you're using way too much or flushing the wrong stuff. As you can see, the channeling and stuff like that just makes it a lot more likely. Should be able to see a lot better on the way back. On the way out, we're pushing a lot of stuff in front of the camera, so So it's not real common, but it may be cast iron all the way out to the tank. which may be a good thing as far as root intrusion, but stuff off the front of the camera here. May have to run some water, but yeah, this line's pretty rough out here. I don't know how long the house has been empty. There's still a lot of water usage, but it may be a good idea to have this descaled. It's just like I said, the only problem with that is taking a chance of not knowing how thin or thick the pipe walls are, and damaging. There's just certain spots that have an awful lot of buildup. Getting pretty tough to push. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to locate, see how close to the tank we are. And also probably turn on some water in the stationary tub here in the basement. See if that helps out at all. Well, actually pushed a little bit there without hitting the record button again. We're getting pretty close. I pushed about 8 feet there. Looks like it's switched over to PVC, which is good for pushing, but I did turn the water on. Should be getting close to the tank at about 135, 140. There we go. And there we are looking into the tank. So, little bit of root intrusion right there at the connection, but it looks like the last 20 feet or so has been replaced with PVC. So we'll continue recording on the way back, and we'll leave the water running. So the last 20 feet PVC looks really good. Cast iron, definitely old. So you will have to keep an eye on it because it is cast iron. 90% of the way to the first 110 feet is all cast iron, and cast iron, obviously you can't really tell the age, or not the age, the condition, excuse me, like the pipe thickness, and that's where you can see that's where it went in. About 112 feet there was where it switched over to cast iron. I'm going to have to turn the water off again because it's kind of bellying up here, and we want to be able to see, get to that point where it switches over to PVC, and then I'll make sure that the camera lens is rinsed off, and then we'll turn the water off and let it drain down a little bit. Yeah, we have been letting the water drain down, but it's taking an awful long time. It is good that the water is flowing. So doesn't mean the line is functioning. We just want to try to get the water level down so we can see a little bit, because obviously there's going to be spots where we need the water level to drop just a little bit so we can see what's going on. And right here is one of them, right at the connection, and we can see, but just a little bit more water, or a little bit less water, would be a lot better. There we go. And so you can see how water is escaping. So as we pull back, we'll take a look at this. Again, I mean, it looks pretty normal for a line this age. I mean, the house looks to be built in the 50s, so I'm assuming that this cast iron is from the 50s. The good thing about that is that a lot of times they use thicker material in the 50s, in the 40s and 50s, and by the 60s they tend to use a little bit thinner pipe. So really at this point what we're looking for is any holes in the pipe, any obstruction to flow, and it is all functioning. The line is just really rough, and so again, you really don't know, the actual life expectancy of a pipe this old. I'm just trying to make sure it's all functioning as we pull back. And you'll have a lot of the white stuff. There's always a little bit of grease buildup just due to the same thing with how rough the inside of the pipe is. Sometimes you'll have spots where it catches a little bit of grease. Overall, the line looks good structurally. I mean, you do have some. This is what I was meaning about the grease there along the side, and then it kind of wears out and channels, and the grease kind of sticks up to the sides of the flow line. It kind of tells you, on average, that the flow line gets just a little bit above that, and that's where the grease is sticking to the rough edges of the pipe. And so, I mean, overall, it's holding shape pretty well as far as the interior being, the overall original size and shape of the pipe. Good thing about it being where it is this type of material is there's no root intrusion, which is good. Cast iron is good at keeping roots out. And if there was any openings, sometimes they're harder to see because of how rough the pipe is, but in this case you would see root intrusion if there was any major pipe damage. See, some of these spots, 60, so we'll say starting at about 62 feet, there's always little spots that kind of have a little more buildup or a little more channeling than others. And as I was pushing out, there's also that part of it where the line, I've scraped some of the loose rust off the bottom of the pipe, I'm sure. And then trying to keep the lens clean is also pretty difficult with the so the cast iron, when it oxidizes, that rust basically just turns to a black soot. And so that iron, as it oxidizes, I mean, it almost turns to like a liquid charcoal almost. And so it's pretty tough sometimes to keep the lens clean just due to that. And so sometimes if you let it sit for a minute, it'll all kind of get off of the, kind of soak down into off the lens, kind of run down. But as we kind of let it sit for a minute, it does seem to kind of drain down off the lens, and sometimes that helps. But I mean, overall the line is functioning, but you can see spots like this where my camera, and it looks like some kind of like the little bit of grease build up there on the side where where it channels, and you can see where my camera is kind of broken some of it loose, and so you can see it moving. So there's more build up on the bottom of the pipe. Let's see, here's a spot right here. You'd like it to having to turn the water back on for a minute here. It does help to probably be a good thing to flush the water out, leave the water running for a while also. See it show up relatively quickly. There you go. Here comes the flow. Be able to rinse the camera off. And as I was saying, you can see the flow line just get right up on that shelf, and then it deposits any kind of grease or whatever up there just thinly, and so it tends to stick easier. And as you can see, that's where the grease comes from, and it kind of creates a channeling in the center. But again, this is all normal for old cast iron. This is how they all look. And the camera is only about a ½ inch off the bottom of the pipe, so that's really not much water. It doesn't take much to overtake the camera lens. So as long as the pipe is flowing well, it usually keeps it down enough, which in this case it is. You just gotta so overall the pipe is holding condition. Structurally it looks good. I don't see any holes or major damage. Again, there is always an option for a descaling, but I think that I would consult a licensed plumber about their opinion on that, on whether or not it would be good for the pipe, or they could take a look at this and see, what they think about the pros and cons of that, whether or not it'd be a good idea at this point. But again, as we pull back out of the stack here and out of the clean out, the line looks good overall. I didn't see any defects or any structural damage to the pipe. The biggest thing is just the overall normal issues with cast iron, which is just basically the fact that it's rough on the inside. It's a lot more likely to have soft clogs because of that. With, like I said, just make sure you're not flushing wet wipes or paper towels, anything like that down there. Toilet paper is designed to disintegrate in water, and that's why it's designed that way. So that if it does catch up a little bit or hang up a little bit at a spot, it'll just break down into the water and continue on down the line. Wet wipes will not do that. If you ever want to do a little test, you can run toilet paper and a wet wipe both underwater and watch how the one breaks down into nothing and the other one holds shape and consistency, and that's why they cause so many problems. So, at any rate, the line looked good overall. I would, you could always ask a licensed plumber if they recommend descaling. At this point, it is fully functional, open and flowing, so it's not anything that you would need to do, but that's just some possible future maintenance. But yeah, the line's open and flowing at time of inspection with no structural issues. So that'll end the inspection at 6551 McEwen Road in Dayton, Ohio.